Hey everybody, Alex Newman here with The New American. This is Conversations That Matter. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have some very special guests today. They are the founders and owners and chief bottle washers for an amazing company. It's called Big Daddy Unlimited. They operate 4 retail locations, Big Daddy Guns. And they are, of course, supporters of The New American Magazine, the one and only, the best magazine on the planet. So we are incredibly honored to have them. Sherry McKnight and Tony McKnight, thank you so much for joining us. And I want to start off right off the bat talking about the administration that, they just waded back into the gun control debate, if you will. They're pushing hardcore anti-gun ATF nominee. Now they want us to have federal licenses to sell blocks of metal. And it looks like he's now pushing for an assault weapons ban. What do we know about what's happening in Washington, D.C., and how concerned should we be?
Like I always tell people, this is basically another example of political theater. It's basically a distraction to satisfy some of the people on the other side of the fence about gun control, and that they'll be happy, and that somehow these overreaches of our people in government will somehow diminish some of the gun violence instead of actually letting police do their jobs. And as my wife has said, let us actually enforce some of the laws that are actually already on the books.
Yeah. We just had this mass shooting in New York, and I was thinking, why didn't they just pass a law against mass shootings, and we would never have problems like that? It was just unbelievable. But what do you guys think of this new ATF nominee? The previous nominee went down in flames. Pretty amazing that he couldn't get through the Senate with even the Democrat tie-breaking vote. What about this new one? Should we be concerned, or will this be a fair enforcer of the federal firearms laws on the books?
I think we should always be concerned when there's a liberal president who's getting ready to appoint a liberal person to police what amounts to the gun registry and start to enforce those laws. Because one of the problems we have with the ATF is that they have an awful lot of deference in their overreach and in their interpretation of what the guidelines are. And that's really the big danger, is you put somebody in there and they decide their interpretation of a guideline is substantially different than a legislative change to the rules.
Yeah, I've noticed that. And actually, I interviewed Larry Pratt some years ago, and he told me, like, hey, there's no question these people are building a database of gun owners. Do you think they're really doing that? And do they have, let's set constitutional authority aside, do they have statutory authority to be compiling all these records into a giant database?
No, and that's the whole point about what we call Chevron deference, is they don't have the authority, but the rule always was, hey, you had to keep your records for 20 years, but if you ever folded up your shop and went out of business, you had to send all the stuff to the ATF. And they basically used to stockpile this stuff. And then somebody along the way said, hey, why don't we digitize it and put it all into a database? Now, nobody specifically told them to do it, but they have the leeway to say, why wouldn't we put this into the database?
Yeah. And why should we be concerned? I mean, other modern industrial countries have gun registries. Why should we be concerned about the government knowing who has what?
Well, last time I checked, we still had something called the Constitution, and I don't need somebody knowing how many of what I'm actually buying. Whether it's a gun or a car or a TV set, it's not our business, man.
Amen.
It's our Second Amendment right. It's our ability. It's the one thing that makes America unique and different. And if we don't have that freedom to exercise our Second Amendment rights, when you look at what's happening around the world, with the pandemic and all the things that are going on in Shanghai and in Australia and other countries, I mean, these people are pretty helpless. I mean, you can't even leave there, and there's no food. People are going crazy. They're jumping from buildings, and they have no form of defense against their government. So that is one of the reasons for the Second Amendment. We do have that, and they don't have a right to know where everything is.
Yeah. Amen. And it is so true. And I want to talk a little bit more about the purpose of the Second Amendment. But before we get there, right now we're all in Florida. You guys are based in kind of the north central Florida region, doing a phenomenal business there. I'm also in the great state of Florida, and our governor has now been begging our legislators for some time to please pass a constitutional carry bill. I think more than half of the states now have this in place. What do you guys think? Should we have to ask the government for permission to be able to carry our firearms with us, or do we need a constitutional carry bill?
I don't think we should have to ask permission for anything that's already in the Constitution.
Because why? Free men don't ask permission. But in this case, we will be showing up on the 20th of this month at the Capitol, where we want to, show people that we really want to get this passed. Since Georgia just signed it into law yesterday, we would like to see Florida do that. So we're going to go now that Ron DeSantis has called a special session. So we will show up and we'll drive as many people there, as we can to show up and say, hey, we want constitutional carry in the state of Florida as well.
Yeah, amen. It's amazing to me. We've got a legislature that is absolutely dominated by Republicans. And the best thing they could think to do a few years ago was, hey, let's pass more gun control.
Absolutely.
Unbelievable.
And our Republicans did it. Which gave us the red flag laws.
Mm-hmm.
It meant that the 18-year-olds could no longer, buy the rifles. It meant it created several types of gun enthusiasts to be class 3 felons. With binary triggers, anything that increases the rate of speed. And Florida here has somehow become the leader in red flag law or risk protection order cases. So it's really crazy because in this country, we're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. And with slightly more than a phone call or saying that somebody is, shouldn't have a weapon or may do something in the future, it's like we're punishing people for a future action that hasn't even occurred yet. We're taking their firearms and ammunition and then making them go to court to fight to get it back. That's kind of completely backwards.
Yeah, guilty until proven innocent. No, and all over Florida, we're hearing these reports of just total abuse. Somebody doesn't like their neighbor, or some boyfriend and girlfriend split up, and someone calls and says, "Oh, they shouldn't have a gun," and you get a SWAT team at your door. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable. I want to talk about the broader Second Amendment, because the argument we keep hearing out of Washington, D.C. and out of this administration is, well, you don't need a AR-15 for hunting. And, why did the founders believe that they had to put the Second Amendment into the U.S. Constitution?
Well, they put it in there to keep an overreaching tyrannical government at bay. And, at the time, it's funny because people always bring that up. And I have this poster in my office that says, when they were coming, when the American Civil War started, they were coming for the guns and the cannons of the colonists. It's like, hey, man, my attitude is, listen, if you can afford a tank, by all means, you should have one parked out in your yard. That's your prerogative. I know Biden made that joke about nukes, but the truth is, if you can afford it, that's the Second Amendment. That's your right. You should be able to have whatever they have.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the founders, I think, understood clearly the purpose of a well-regulated militia with a well-armed citizenry was to be able to provide military defense for family, for state, for liberty against any enemy that may come, whether foreign or domestic. And that was clearly the understanding at the time. And I do think it's so fantastic that what really seemed to have kicked off our war for independence was when they showed up and said, hey, hand over the guns. And the Americans said, no, we're not going to be doing that. It's crazy times that we live in. So you guys, I want you to talk a little bit about your business. I'm so fascinated by your business. I've been to your business before. In fact, you guys have hosted me there to give talks, and you guys are really just, I think the epitome of what it is to be an American business family. So talk a little bit about the explosive growth of your business, what you guys do. I know you have a subscription service. Tell the folks about it.
Well, first, I just want to say, I think what makes Tony and I unique is that we saw a problem. And we identified that problem, which was an attack on our Second Amendment rights. And even though I had not been exercising my Second Amendment rights and I did not own any guns at that time, I still love and adore my freedom. And I know what my rights are, like the actual rights, not what people say are rights. And I saw that that was under attack. And so I went and told Tony, hey, man, they're talking about gun control and, infringing on our Second Amendment rights. And so when I preface that, and I'll let Tony explain a little bit more about how we got to where we are, but I think it's important to note that a lot of people sit around and complain about what they see and don't actually become part of a solution. And this was our attempt to basically rise up and say, hey, this doesn't sound right to us, and we're going to do something about it.
And so that's what we did. We launched Big Daddy Guns initially, and then we came up with the idea of Big Daddy Unlimited, which is a membership-based e-commerce platform, so that we could give people the same access that we got to firearms, ammunition, and gear. And in the last year, we decided that, well, the e-commerce is good, but we're doing a big retail rollout. We'll have 25 stores on the ground this year and another 25 next year, mostly in the Southeast and Midwest. Wow. And our goal is basically to rationalize the firearms buying and ownership and educational process and put them front and center and let people, exercise their Second Amendment right at the price they can live with.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't realize that we were talking that kind of growth. That's amazing. I'm just so pleased with that. And it truly is the American story, right? We see a problem, we solve it, we make a business out of it, make a living, and do good for the community while we're at it. Before we let you guys go, what are some thoughts for the folks out there? I think everybody with some common sense is concerned about the growing infringements on our Second Amendment rights, on what's coming out of DC, what's coming out of a lot of the liberal states. How can folks get involved in this effort to protect firearms ownerships and the God-given rights to self-defense?
Well, one of the things that we've done, in addition to what we've just shared with you, is we just launched something new called the American Gun Coalition. And what we want to do and what we feel makes us different than the other large gun organizations, which we want to partner with a lot of different people, because each organization has something that they, a path that they have chosen. What we want to do is educate, motivate, and activate people. We want to educate them on not just, like, right now we're doing a lot of free concealed carry classes. We want to raise people up. We want to help create more passionate, more, really committed Second Amendment people that will show up and, help push push what we want forward and fight against what we don't. We want to motivate them in, participating in these things. We want to activate them. We want to launch onto college campuses and start teaching basic firearms knowledge there. We know that training and raising up, educated people who are safe is the way we really attract more people. And aside from everything that we've discussed here, it's also a great hobby. It's fun to go out there. There's, lots of great competitive shooters. We have a couple of them here at Big Daddy Unlimited. It's a sport. It's a hobby. It's a way to protect and defend. And we want to just teach everybody more how to fall in love with their Second Amendment rights. That's one aspect of how we see you can get involved and be a part of the solution.
That is so awesome.
Activism.
Yeah, grassroots.
And getting people to plug in and pay attention. That's been fascinating, because over the last 2 years, there's been upwards of 8 million new gun owners. Yeah. And it's a great opportunity for us to educate people about what the Second Amendment is, and perhaps the person you voted for last time shouldn't be the person you vote again next time around, because they might be the one that wants to take that new shiny gun that you got away from you.
Yep. And we got that problem here in Florida.
I was going to say, the great thing is, we have all kinds of shoppers at Big Daddy Unlimited and in our stores at Big Daddy Guns. And it's not all a party line. It is not a party line issue. Yep. Even people who voted for the man in office, a lot of them understand they also need to protect and defend themselves, because the people on their side of the aisle said, hey, let's also defund our police. Yeah. So they can't show up. They can't enforce the laws that are already on the books, but magically new additional gun control is going to do something. No, I better show up and go get myself a gun and some education.
Amen. So you guys have the website, BigDaddyUnlimited.com. What are the best ways to follow you guys? Are you on social media? How can people connect and shop?
Yep. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Truth Social, you name it, we're there. Big Daddy Unlimited. Follow us. And then also, like Sherry just said, we had just launched the American Gun Coalition. It's a constitutionally conservative grassroots platform for educating, motivating, and activating.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Sherry, Tony, we appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for joining us. Folks, that was Sherry and Tony McKnight. They are the founders and the owners of Big Daddy Unlimited and Big Daddy Guns. Check them out. Truly some great business owners and also liberty-minded folks that you can go check out online. It's BigDaddyUnlimited.com. We appreciate you all for tuning in. Thank you. I'm Alex Newman. This is Conversations That Matter for the New American Magazine. Until next time, God bless you all.